Welcome. I so wish we were able to welcome you to Grounds in person today. It's a beautiful spring day in Charlottesville, and I wish you were experiencing it here with us, but this will have to do. Housekeeping, just to start, I wanted to let you know that we'll be recording this session so that it will be accessible later. We are also happy to take your questions in the second part of the session using the Q&A box. Feel free to go ahead and enter those at any time. I'm going to go through some basic information first, and we'll turn to your questions, so feel free to log those. I'm Ann Carter-Mulligan. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Admissions at the Frank Batten School. I am joined by my wonderful colleague, Courtney, and two very talented students, Matt and Sela, who you will hear much, much more from in a bit with their own perspectives on the Batten community. But as I mentioned, I'm going to start by sharing some nuts and bolts slides, some basic info about the school before we get on to the good stuff. So for now, congratulations. You've passed a really high bar. You're well ahead of the game in showing an interest in this upper school and in public policy early on in your process. And I think this will only set you up for success should you choose to come to UVA and apply to the Batten School further down the road. So why study leadership and public policy? Our founder, Frank Batten, made his founding gift in 2007 after identifying a deficit at the highest levels of government. He saw a real failure of those in public service to actually deliver on their promise to enact good policy. For him, this came down to a failure in leadership. So he founded the school with the intent of having this dual focus of both public policy and in leadership. And we think this is something that still really resonates today, perhaps especially so when we think about the challenges facing our nation and our world. This message is part of what differentiates us, where a traditional policy school will focus on administration and analysis. We combine the best of those skills with a focus on leadership so that you can identify policy solutions, but also implement them. So we will give you the hard skills, research, data analysis, coding, but also leadership, group behavior, negotiation, conflict resolution, team building. Our goal is really to help you move from theory to practice so you can meet challenges and become change agents. Can do the next slide.
It is frozen.
Oh no. There we go. There we go. Okay. What else makes us special? I mentioned our vision. With this dual focus, we really want to empower you and challenge you to become a resilient leader. Our students are very deeply engaged. You will hear that from our students this afternoon. They want to go out into the world and make an impact, and we work hard to equip them with the skills so they can do that. We are small by design, so we have only 400 students or so across all of our programs. And this results in a really strong cohort model, a really close-knit community where the strength of your connections to your classmates, to support staff, to faculty, all really help you thrive and grow. The accessibility of our faculty is one of the Batten School's most highly rated features. We have a 10-to-1 student to faculty ratio, so you get lots of access to them, lots of access to support on an individual level, whether it's from the admissions team and helping you through the application process or through dedicated academic advising, or our career services support. They help you find internships and future employment. We think it's really important to build a really strong Batten network because you'll continue to lean on it as you achieve your professional goals after you leave school. We are also interdisciplinary in nature. UVA has a number of interdisciplinary majors. We combine social psychology, economics, history, politics, ethics, and beyond to study the ways that all of those fields intersect and really shape policy in very complicated ways. Just as importantly, our faculty have very diverse backgrounds as both scholars and practitioners in both the domestic and the international sphere. So they are really well versed in both thinking about and doing real policy work. Our new dean, Ian Solomon, is a former Obama administration official with the Treasury Department and the World Bank. We have former UN staff on faculty. We have another faculty member who's a former member of Congress and was a high-ranking US Army and Department of Defense official. All of those folks bring their professional experiences to bear in the classroom for students' benefits. I mentioned our classroom. The setting is, back again, sorry. Very interactive, very hands-on, collaborative. There is a focus on experiential and applied learning. I hope you're sensing a theme here. We're really helping you develop a skill set that you can use to prepare you for what comes next. When you leave Batten, you'll have a really strong analytical and critical thinking background. You'll know how to write. You'll know how to design and execute a policy project. You'll be a proficient public speaker. All of these are really valuable skills for a variety of careers. Okay, so what are those programs? I mentioned we're in upper school, meaning students typically apply into our programs in either their second or their third year. We have 3 programs open to UVA undergrads, a major and a minor in public policy and leadership, and an accelerated MPP, Master of Public Policy. I'll start with that grad degree. Students tend to apply in their third year, and they have to receive their undergraduate degree outside of Batten. So they major in something else. You begin taking a mix of Batten grad level coursework and finishing out your undergraduate coursework in that 4th year. You graduate, walk the lawn, do a summer internship, and then your 5th and final year is all graduate work exclusively at Batten. It's really rigorous coursework in your first year in behavioral economics, social psychology, research methods and data analysis, so that in your grad year, you can really apply what you've learned towards policy areas that are interesting to you. The focus is on applied knowledge. So through your capstone project as a grad student, the applied policy project, you'll work as a consultant with a client to solve a real world issue. You'll really spend their money, so they really expect some results. It's a professional degree. It's a deep dive into policy and data analysis. It's very quantitative. It's really for students who want to directly influence the policy sphere. So our bachelor's you apply in your second year. You take courses in your final 2 years at the university in Foundations of Public Policy and Leadership, some economic courses again, various multidisciplinary contexts, and then some special topics. If you think about the Excel as like an immersive deep dive, this is more of a generalist curriculum. We call it a liberal arts plus look at maybe the 10,000 foot level at a variety of policy issues. You end up being a really good consumer of information and a policy advocate. And finally, our minor, you apply along the same timeline as the BA. It's a good way to supplement your primary major with some policy, whether it's in environmental sciences, economics, politics, media studies, education, English. I actually struggle to think of a major that wouldn't benefit from a little bit more policy literacy. Similar to the BA, it's essentially half of the coursework, but you have access to the same faculty, same community, and this is maybe even a higher 20,000 foot look at policy issues. Our goal is really to begin to bridge the gaps for you in terms of your main area of study and policy. All right, so you can also experience Batten from outside of our major. We have a number of courses open to non-Batten students, including the intro coursework that you see here on these slides. These courses, if you take them, they can be applied towards curricular requirements should you choose to come to Batten later. You can also take our open electives. I mentioned those, we call them special topics. So these are classes in a variety of discrete policy areas, whether health or education or criminal justice, defense, global development, nonprofits, governance. It really kind of runs the whole gambit in the policy world. We also offer with UVA a social entrepreneurship minor. So that's separate from our public policy and leadership minor, separate application process. That's an interdisciplinary program that prepares students for work in nonprofits, social impact-driven for-profits, philanthropy, impact investing, that sort of thing. We also have a number of research centers and labs that you can get involved with. Our faculty conduct cutting-edge research, studying everything from what organizational, social, and psychological factors influence decision-making to education and workforce outcome improvement, to measuring Congress's efficiency and holding them accountable for legislation, to working with the DoD on foreign policy projects. We even have, as you see, a Center for Leadership and Simulation in Gaming, where we will run simulations of policy decisions applied to real world situations, like, for example, global pandemics. So students from both inside and outside of Batten can engage with the work of our centers and help faculty conduct this research. So to what end should you consider joining us? Among other reasons, our job numbers are simply outstanding, which I know our current students are glad to hear. These are numbers from the class of 2018 showing 98% employment within 6 months of graduation. We actually received this week class of 2019 numbers, which reflect a 99% employment rate for the BA and holding steady at 98% for that accelerated degree. We attribute a lot of the success to the strength of our students and the preparation they receive, but also the hands-on one-on-one support that I mentioned that they can receive from our career and professional development team, who they work with you from interview prep to resume workshops to bringing recruiters back to grounds, really from start to finish. They learn what motivates you, what you're good at, and help you kind of pivot and leverage those talents and those skills to find a good job. So you'll see here a breakdown of where our students go. A big chunk of our grads go into consulting, more so on the private sector side for the BA, more on the government side for the grad levels. I think this reflects the really strong foundation you receive here in critical thinking and in project management. All of those skills really lend themselves to public and private sector consulting. Our grads enter business, but also direct government service, nonprofits, research institutions and think tanks, the service organizations, Teach for America, Peace Corps, as well as grad school. Law school is a common destination for our grads. The top destination is DC, Capitol Hill, but we also have grads in New York working on Wall Street. We have grads working in the tech sector on the West Coast, working abroad in the global policy realm. They're really all over. You'll see sample employers here at the bottom of this slide, but the bottom line is really, there's a big cross-section of industry and government and public service represented. It's a really wide variety of outcomes because the toolkit, that I've mentioned, lends itself to a lot of different careers. So let's do the really dry stuff quickly before turning it over to our students. Here's a little bit of admissions and application information. As I mentioned, you apply spring second year for the major and the minor, third year for the accelerated program to begin the following fall. Prior to that fall, you have to complete just 2 prerequisite courses, depending on what program you're looking at, to start to build some foundational knowledge. So if you come to UVA, start thinking about these courses that you see here. Think about taking those in your first year, though you still have some time. Our programs are very competitive. So because we intentionally keep our numbers quite small, there are 80 seats in each incoming BA class, 90 seats in the MPP, but that is split. So it's half accelerated UVA students and half traditional 2-year postgraduate students. So we received 215 apps for the BA this year, 120 for the minor, and 64 applications for the 45 seats that we hold for accelerated students. So you see those admittance rates on this slide. You'll see that they are competitive programs. So what distinguishes some of these successful applicants? You'll see here what types of things we look for. There's no magic GPA, there's no prescribed set of extracurriculars. We really want to see your passion, your engagement, your interest in policy, your academic growth over time. When we think about building a class, it's really not for just the 2 years that you're here. We're thinking about 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, who is going to be out in the world creating positive, lasting change. Those are the students we want to bring into our community. So as an admissions committee, we practice holistic review, meaning there's not one factor, but a balance of factors that determine your admission. So these are the things we look for. Leadership, that's both formal and informal roles. How are you a leader in your daily life? Professional vision, that's your motivation to study policy, why you want to pursue a Batten degree. Your work experience and community engagement, that's reflected in all sorts of ways, whether it's internships, jobs, volunteering, community service, otherwise, school engagement. Basically, what are you passionate about, and how do you go out into the world and practice that passion? And then overall academic performance. So how you do in your prereqs and relevant coursework, how you grow as a student over time, the rigor of coursework as you go on. Are you taking harder and harder classes? And can we see a narrative in your interests and your expertise as they develop over time? So lest that all come off as too intimidating, we in the admissions office are really here to help you find your path. I meet with students all the time. It's my role to help you find your way. We really want you to succeed. If you are passionate about policy and leadership and want to be at Batten, we want to help you get here. You'll see a couple of different kinds of events that we host throughout the year here to share information about our programs and our resources and our application process. I will say if we remain digital throughout the summer, we'll definitely offer virtual resources. During the regular academic year, we often sit down to offer you one-on-one guidance and feedback, both in these larger events, but we also host regular office hours. Our ambassadors do a lot of one-on-one advising. So we engage with the community really widely. We want you to come in through whatever door you can find so we can tell you about Batten. One other of those doors is our regular Baton Hour, which is open to anyone who wants to attend. That's a weekly session where we bring in experts to talk about the policy issues of the day. So that'll give you a good flavor, in addition to our introductory coursework, as to the kinds of issues that we engage in and the way we think about them and attempt to solve really serious problems. So if you go to our website, you can learn more. You can sign up for our listserv. You can check out our FAQs. We're also available at the email address that you see here. And that's it. That's the dry, boring, and piece of this presentation. Speaking of experts, let's turn it now over to a couple. I'll hand things now to our admissions coordinator, Courtney, to introduce our wonderful, wonderful students.
Thanks, Anne. As she mentioned, my name is Courtney Lisensnyder. I'm the admissions coordinator here at the Batten School. Essentially means I work on a lot of our events, as well as work on admissions for both our undergraduate and graduate programs. So I'm a friendly face that you'll see around Garrett Hall. So please make yourself known to us if you do have questions. But truly, you don't want to hear from us anymore. We do have that Q&A feature open with that chat feature, so please don't hesitate to send in any and all questions that you have there. But I'll really turn it over to our two students. So we have two amazing undergraduate students, Matt Gillum and Sela Carrington. They can go from here and tell us a little bit about themselves, who they are, where they're from, maybe a little bit of their interests, maybe what they're involved with, both within the Batten community as well as the UVA community abroad. But I will first turn it over to our incoming Buck president, Matt Gillum.
Hey everyone, my name is, like Courtney said, Matt Gillum. I'm from Long Island, New York, where I currently am. I'm a third year, so I'll be a fourth year coming in the fall. And Courtney said Buck, so Buck is Batten Undergraduate Council. So all kind of the events and community building things that we have as an undergraduate cohort, really 2 cohorts, like the 3rd and 4th years in Batten. All those events, all that fun stuff, service projects, social events, all of that is run by the Batten Undergraduate Council, and I'm the incoming president, so I'll be helping to coordinate a lot of those really cool events, which is really exciting. Beyond Batten, I'm a tour guide at UVA, so I'm always kind of hoping that I see somebody that I gave a tour to. So if I gave a tour to one of you, please say something. That would be really cool. But I'm a tour guide. I'm really involved in the Jewish community on grounds. So it's beyond the scope of this, but if you have any questions about that, definitely feel free to put them in the Q&A and I'll type back the answer rather than like say it out loud. And I'm also involved in an organization called Camp Kesem, which is a week-long sleepaway camp put on by UVA students for children whose parents have or have passed away from cancer. And I'm super excited about getting to talk to you guys about Batten. Did I miss what policy interests? Is that that's the only thing I've missed, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sure I'm going through all of them. My policy areas that I'm interested in kind of change as I do new projects, but I've always kind of stayed constant with education policy. I'm really fascinated by that, and how we can like kind of tackle the opportunity gap, especially interested in creating trauma-informed programs in public schools. And I found out recently that I'll be doing Teach for America once I graduate. So that'll be like in the distant future, but that's something I know. So Teach for America was one of the things listed there, and there are a bunch of Batten students that go through that application process. And I'm also really interested right now in cash bail and pretrial detention reforms. That's like kind of criminal justice policy. And that's all I've got. I'll kick it to Sela, but feel free to ask away.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name, as Courtney mentioned, is Sela Carrington. I am also a 3rd year, same as Matt, incoming 4th year, which is actually surreal to say that I am graduating in May. But where am I? I'm in Leesburg, Virginia right now, so that's 2 hours north of Charlottesville. Similarly to Matt, I'm interested in basically any policy that I'm learning about that day. But something that has become really consistent with me is criminal justice reform, and specifically mental health within the criminal justice system, and the way that policies are being created and implemented, and how they disproportionately impact people of color who are predominantly in prisons. So that's been something that's really interesting to me. I'm involved with a lot, so my time is kind of spread very thin here at UVA, which is a common thing with the majority of students, not only in Batten, but just at UVA in general. But in Batten, I am one of the co-founders and the incoming president of the Black Student Leaders in Policy, which is a new organization that we created to really network and work with students of color and get them more interested and involved in Batten. I'm also an admission ambassador. So if you guys do end up applying to Batten at some point, we will be reading through your applications and helping you create your essays and just helping you create the strongest application that you can possibly do. I'm also one of the 4 incoming senior PAs for the Office of African American Affairs. So I'll be having 5 to 6 incoming first years who I'm mentoring and helping, and really helping them navigate the craziness that is college life. It's going to be a little bit more difficult if we're virtual, but hopefully we're not, because I don't want to be. I also work for the Democracy Initiative, which is the politics center here at UVA. And so I help them out with a lot of the events that they have coming up. And I'm a research assistant for Motivate Lab, looking at education policy and how motivation works with younger children, specifically with sports and things like that. So that's a couple of the things. Oh, I'm really excited for next year, because next year I'm living on the lawn, so I'm opening my doors to anyone and everyone that wants to come visit me. So if we are back on grounds in the fall, please feel free to roll through 24 East. I'll be there most of the time. If not, then just you're welcome to come in.
If not, you're probably at JPJ.
Most likely, yes. Oh, yes, very into sports. Very, very into sports.
Sela is always on the Jumbotron. In case anyone goes to athletic events, you'll also see your face there. Well, thank you both for your introductions. I think the most obvious starting place is, why did you choose Batten? There's a lot of different majors at the university. Also, a lot of different majors that all sound the same. There's politics, there's foreign affairs, there's You'll learn there's PST, political social thought, PPL, which is politics, philosophy, something, something, and law. It's a very long title. So what was it about Batten that really drew you to choose us, apply to us, and be probably some of our top students at Batten?
I could go first. I chose Batten because I was definitely politically oriented and knew that that was something I wanted to get a degree in. Like Courtney said, there's a cajillion majors that all kind of sound the same. But the hook for Batten for me was Batten's really solution oriented, at least I feel. Right, you're given problems and told to tackle them rather than like talk out the problems, which is something to do in and of itself. I just like was really drawn to the idea that like we could digest a problem and find an actionable solution through, we read a ton of policy memos, through advocacy projects, presentations, any number of ways in which you like can sit down and in a given period of time really like solve an actual problem and like genuinely propose solutions that help people. And I always say that that's kind of the reason, like, for example, I chose Batten over being a political science major because it was really the solution focus about that.
Yeah, kind of going off of that, I think that Anne mentioned it a lot, but Batten is very together and group oriented. And honestly, coming into Batten, I genuinely like despised group work just because it's very difficult to find a group of people that are all willing to put in the same amount of effort. And that's something that I've really seen that's unique about Batten students is that we do so much group work, but you can always count on everyone in your group to give 110% every time, because we're all really passionate about seeing some type of tangible change here at UVA. And that doesn't even have to be policies that there's a lot of the times where we're just throwing policies that we have know nothing about, that we have to research and come up with and write a paper about. And most of us don't have much knowledge in that area, but the fact that everyone's willing to work together, work really hard, and that goes along with the small class sizes. It's just so great to be able to know everybody in your class, know everybody's face, have a general idea of who everybody is. It's just like really rare to see. So that's something that has been really cool to me. And the food, there's so much food in Batten, like all of the time there is food. Even if there's not an event, like there will be food there. So if that's something that you're into, there's always food.
I know, I can't plan my weekly meals around Batten right now, so that's been an interesting transition. Well, Sela, you mentioned in your bio that you do some undergraduate research. Iris wants to know, are there opportunities for undergraduate research at Batten? So I'll turn it to you to talk a little bit more about that, not to exclude Matt, you can jump in too.
Yeah, most definitely. There are definitely opportunities to do undergraduate research. The job that I have is Motivate Lab, so it's actually through the Curry School of Education, and I just found that by going to, we have a research fair. It's kind of similar to a job fair, but it's just all of the research labs that we have here are all at Newcomb Hall, which is the dining hall. It's on the top floor, and they just ask people to sign up, and they'll reach out to you, email, ask if you're interested. And it's easily been one of the most fun things I've done because it's very different from anything I've ever done. I've never done research before. And working in a space that has to do with education, which is also something that I'm not very knowledgeable about, has been really interesting and really new to me. And it's something that I've absolutely loved. So there's definitely research opportunities for pretty much, I would say, like every subject. If there's something that you're interested in, it's definitely really easy to find someone who can help you study that.
Yeah, and to piggyback off what Sela said, when you're looking at schools broadly, right, because you guys are still kind of in this decision-making process where you're picking like what actual university you will attend, like majors aside. Part of the draw of a school like UVA is that we have these professors that come from all of these different walks of life and then coalesce on UVA to do this awesome, awesome research, right? Sela and I are taking a class right now with one of our professors is an economist who like worked in the Peace Corps and did all this like really awesome humanitarian aid and like global development actual research. And now she like comes to UVA to like teach that, but also do her own research. So it's left and right, these awesome opportunities. If she's taking a break from research, she's got a dozen friends that are doing similar research that she can link you with. So it really never ends, this kind of cycle of getting to engage with these professors. One of my favorite stories is like somebody went into a media studies professor, which again is not Batten, sorry, but they sat down to talk to this professor about doing research and like got distracted by the 2 Emmys that he had on his back shelf, right? So you constantly, and Batten is an incubator even more so than the broader UVA community for those kinds of professors that have just done X, Y, Z and are constantly have these opportunities for you to get involved and do any number of things.
Perfect. Speaking of getting involved, Matt and Sela, what are some of the best ways to get involved in Batten before you actually apply to the school?
I would recommend going to Baton Hour as much as you can, because it's not only really interesting, but it's also a really good way to show that you're interested in the program. I don't know if there's many specific ways, but I'm just thinking of like events like the chili cook-off that we have every year. That was one of the first events that I went to that was Batten related. There's free t-shirts, there's free chili. It's really just a win-win across the board. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm not sure if Matt can.
Yeah, also really, for me, what solidified that I really wanted to do Batten was the spring semester of my second year. I took a class called Public Policy Challenges of the 21st Century, taught by Professor Warburg, who's like a Batten legend. And he was a former senior staffer on the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think I got that right.
Yeah.
But he's like got such a ridiculous wealth of experience. He also lobbied for a really long time. So he's got the know-how about policy advocacy and international politics specifically. And he goes through, each week is just a different policy area. And we go through each week and hit totally different policy areas and have crazy guest speakers. That semester, there was a humanitarian crisis in Yemen that I was writing a policy memo on. And that week, like the humanitarian aid week, Congressman Jerry Connolly, who represents parts of Northern Virginia and is like a pretty big player in Congress. He is on like committees on foreign relations and things like that. He came and spoke because he's like an old friend of Professor Warburg's. And I got to ask him a question about a memo I was writing about, because he had made a vote on that policy like literally the day prior. And the policy was ever changing as I was literally writing this memo, and I wasn't even in the Batten School yet. So you get to take those kinds of intro classes that Anne had on one of the slides really quickly before you even matriculate to Batten. And I definitely recommend doing that with Batten in any kind of major, because you'll get to dip your toe in the water and get your name known, right? Like Jerry Warburg knew who I was because I asked that question, right? So can't hurt on any level.
Perfect. And we have a slightly more technical question.
Yeah.
Can engineering majors apply to the accelerated MPP? If so, are there any additional prereqs for engineering students?
Yeah, so you can apply from any major at UVA, and the trick is really in figuring out the balance of that fourth year coursework. Some of the more highly structured majors like engineering might be a little bit more difficult to accomplish that, because essentially in that final undergrad year you have time to, let's see, it's about 2 courses per semester that you have space for to complete your undergrad degree. It's 2/3 grad coursework, 1/3 finishing out your undergrad. Engineering is a difficult, a rigorous major, let's say. So also think about your own kind of capacity for pain, maybe, in that you'll be taking real grad courses. It's not like, it's not a walk in the park. It's a very different fourth year experience than some of your peers might have. I say that not to discourage you in the least, but really to encourage you to, if this is a path that you're interested in, when you get to grounds, come and talk to us. We can kind of map out the 5 years for you. We can talk a little bit more about your interests and your goals, and we can see if it's something that you should think further about.
All right, well, we had a bunch of questions come in all of a sudden. Are there opportunities for international exchanges connected to Batten? I don't know if either Sela or Matt has studied abroad, but.
I have not studied abroad. Have you, Sela?
No, but I do know there's a Batten program that's in London that was supposed to happen this summer, I want to say. So I don't think that's happening anymore. But there was also a J term, which is a January term study abroad option through Batten in Vietnam, I believe.
Yeah, I was actually supposed to go on the Vietnam trip and had to pull out last minute. The thing with Batten, like you can go through the study abroad office, which is a UVA wide office, to study abroad as a Batten major. Like that's an option that remains available to you. We like to say that like literally any major you can find a way to study abroad. Batten specifically, you're gonna have to shift around some of your classes, but it's totally doable. Plenty of people do it. And then Batten has increasingly opportunities for you to study abroad kind of beyond the traditional setting, right? So how can I study abroad? Not for a semester. So you can do things like a J term in Vietnam where you go spend like 2 weeks meeting with like actual policy entrepreneurs in Vietnam. And that counts as like a full 3 credit, totally full blown UVA class. It'll count towards the major. And you get to like go to Vietnam with people you've never met and do awesome things. And then also we have a bunch of summer programs like Sela said. So there really is a ton of flexibility to go and study abroad if it's not necessarily like a 1-for-1 exchange through the Batten School. That doesn't exist per se, but there are plenty of opportunities to go study abroad.
To elaborate on that a little bit further, as Matt suggested, you can't fulfill any of Batten's core coursework abroad, but you can accumulate those special topics credits. So you could do a Batten offered course, and that would be a direct special topics 3 credits in, or you could work with our academic affairs advisor to, if you're taking, say, if you go to Oxford and study politics of the EU, unrelated to our school, that's got some policy implications. So you can apply to have that credit applied towards your electives.
Jumping off the study abroad conversation based off of a new question that came in terms of studying abroad with the MPP, similarly to the undergraduate major, you can't complete any of your core classes abroad, but that J-term class in Vietnam, for example, was a cross-listed class. You could take it at the grad or undergrad level. You can also do study abroad before entering the Batten program as well. Speaking of the MPP, I know neither of you are MPP students, so Anne, feel free and answer this one. Is it redundant to major in politics or foreign affairs and then to enter the Batten MPP?
No, I think that's a pretty common path because you're going to get a lot of the kind of best in class theory and thinking really expansively about issues across that discipline. And then when you join Batten for the MPP, you will benefit from that applied focus. So you'll take those theories that you have a lot of expertise in at that point and start to really make them actionable towards a set of tangible results. So I think that's a really nice complement. We also see a lot of students who do an econ undergrad major and then go on to the MPP. But increasingly, it's kind of all students come from all over UVA and have an interest in directly influencing policy or working in nonprofits, and find that the accelerated MPP is really good preparation for them to do that. So we have English majors, sociology majors. We had our first architecture major incoming this fall. So it's a really wide cross section of UVA that ends up pursuing an MPP with us.
Yeah, I'm actually an architecture minor. That's why I cheered a little bit. But also, just like Anne said, plenty of people double major in the undergrad, which is not by any means the question you asked, but just people always ask about double majoring. So I thought it was a good piggyback. Plenty of people double major in really, really cool things. I know English double majors and econ double majors and youth and social innovation double majors exist, while it would be a very rigorous course load. So there's plenty of opportunity to take kind of whatever you do outside of Batten, be that another degree, a minor, whatever the case may be, and then come into either the master's program or the undergrad program and really just kind of like complement each other and create a really awesome symbiotic kind of series of degrees.
Very technical question for our UVA students. When do students generally declare their major?
It's really like second semester, second year, yeah, and first semester, third year is like really the time block you're supposed to be in. But you can, if you've completed certain things and done your due diligence, go a semester earlier, kind of fulfill that, or officially declare first semester, second year, or you can go later and do it spring semester of your third year. But if you do end up doing the Batten undergrad, there's no declaration at any point unless you've declared a major, like a second major or a major before you've gotten into the school. But I, for example, was totally undeclared applying in. I was on a path to be a foreign affairs major, but never officially did the actual declaration because it doesn't really change much. It gets you an advisor, which is really important. But it doesn't change the courses I was going to take. So I was waiting to hear back from Batten and then kind of making that decision. But once I got into Batten, I matriculated and never had to do the technical filling out of a declaration form.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I know for engineering, I think it's a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
You declare in your first year, I want to say second semester, first year, or first semester, second year, but it's a lot earlier than the other schools because there's a lot more coursework that has to be developed within the school.
In those kind of smaller programs, so like engineering, architecture, nursing, things like that, you get on a faster track, right? You kind of hit the ground running in ways that you don't when you apply into the College of Arts and Sciences. You kind of get to mess around. I took intro to guidance counseling my first semester at UVA because you really have, you kind of mess around and take classes that just interest you, and engineering, same principle, architecture, same principle, just hit the ground running a little bit quicker.
Can you apply to Batten more than once? The answer is yes.
Yeah, so you can apply, I guess if the question is if you're unsuccessful at first application, can you apply again? Kind of. So we do stagger the application dates so that if you apply to the BA and are either waitlisted or don't get in, you can still apply to the minor for that cycle and still get in. Your BA application has no bearing on your minor application. There are separate review processes. You do have to hit the sweet spot in your second year, though, to knock that out. For the most part. For the major, that is, it's a full 2 years of coursework. It can't be expedited. We offer our courses either in the fall or the spring, so you have limited ability to move those around. So you can't, unless you've applied early to the BA, say you come into UVA with a lot of credits, you've completed the prereqs, and you hit the 60 credit threshold, which is a question I see from Iris as well. If you hit the 60 credit threshold prior to fall, your second year, you can apply early. It's still a full 2 years though. So you'll have to plan on, you can't stretch it over 3. In that scenario, you would probably just plan to graduate from UVA earlier. I think I only answered part of that question. Oh, the other piece that I wanted to say was you can apply to the major and get into the major, get there, take the coursework, discover that, I think I'm really ready for grad work, or I think my goals, professional goals have really, I've gotten some clarity through being in this coursework. You can then apply to the accelerated degree, but you have to go back and pick a different major because you can't major both in Batten and then get that MPP in Batten too. So you'd have to go, essentially probably go back to the college and pick another major.
And kind of going off of what Anne said, I feel that that question is probably geared out of just looking at the acceptance rate and seeing that it's significantly lower than a lot of the other schools, which you just apply in and you get in, especially with the comm school. Their acceptance rate is going to be higher than ours because they are significantly larger. And from personal experience, I applied normally and I did get waitlisted. And so obviously I had to do other plans. I had to make other plans and I applied to the minor and I was accepted to the minor. And then I got off the wait list over the summer and I became in the undergraduate bachelor program. So it's definitely possible, and don't let that deter you from applying, because that's what all of us are here for, is to help you make the strongest application that you can possibly have to boost your chances of getting in. So just don't let that deter you if that's something that you're concerned about, because we're all here to make it possible for you to succeed. And if it doesn't work out the first time, there's definitely other ways to get involved and to take courses and be involved with Batten.
Yeah, and totally when you apply in your second semester of your second year, right? So you've taken 3 semesters full of classes, you're inevitably on track to do something that isn't Batten, because you can't really get into the meat of that coursework until you're in the program. So like you're inevitably on track to be economics or history or political science or whatever the case may be, or something totally different than that. But you, like, there's always a built-in backup plan. And I like to say, like, the worst case scenario is like a really incredible econ degree from UVA, which is still phenomenal, right? So, and there are all these awesome ways, even beyond the Batten School, there are awesome ways, there are policy-driven classes in the college, and you can really like be mindful about how you're leveraging your degree, whatever it is, right? If you have an interest in policy, you can seek internships and research experience to kind of pad out any degree to be policy leaning and whatever and whatnot. So really, like, you can find exactly what you want in any program, in any kind of form. So it shouldn't be too terrifying, even though I know it probably is.
Yeah, you got through the hard part. You got into UVA. So any degree from UVA is it's a UVA degree. So most people aren't going to scrutinize exactly what you majored in. The fact that you graduated from UVA is going to be accomplishment in its own.
Perfect. Well, we have about 15 minutes left. Again, send in questions if you do have them. I figured in this last little bit, we'll talk about some of your favorite experiences, both at UVA or in the Batten School. So we'll start with Batten first. What has been either one of your favorite classes you've taken or favorite experiences that you've had over this past year in Batten? Or before Batten, if it was before.
I think I've had a couple of really cool Batten experiences, so I might rattle a couple off. So cut me off if I'm taking too long. This semester, for like the way kind of the course is built out, this semester was the first time that we really I really felt that cohort vibe really, really strongly. I've like known who's in my Batten class and whatnot, but this is my second full semester in Batten. And this was the semester that we got put in these 2 classes, historical and institutional context of public policy. I always get the name a little wrong, and economics of public policy.
So long.
What'd you say?
It's so long.
It is so long, and I feel like the words change every time I look at it. But we really got put in these 2 smaller classes, and so much of our coursework is group driven, which we've said like a cajillion times in this webinar, but one in particular, this context of public policy class, is taught by Paul Martin, who is like my idol, and he's the absolute man. And we're working on a semester-long policy advocacy project. And I'm working with somebody I knew coming in. Her name's Marlena. She's awesome, awesome, awesome. And I've like only gotten closer with her because of this coursework. This guy, Jack, who I like didn't know at all beforehand. This was our first class together. And now he's like such a bud, and we do all of this work together because it's our like semester-long project. And it's been wildly fascinating work, but also like I've made new friends because of it. And I think that that's like the weird, awesome balance that you get, is like walking into Garrett Hall, like a whole building at UVA, and genuinely knowing like 80% of the people in there on a personal level is a really awesome thing. And it only amplifies like being socially confident, and like having a social kind of group only amplifies your academic success in this kind of context. And it's been like wildly awesome to get to do that. Also, another Batten memory, and then I'll cap it. I was one of the co-chairs of this Batten chili cook-off, which was so much fun. It's like kind of, I don't know how I describe, it's a chili cook-off first and foremost. But it's kind of geared towards the broader UVA, for you to come in and judge a bunch of different chilies, which I know sounds ridiculous. But I got to help plan that. And it was just the first time that I got to engage with Batten in that kind of capacity, and like really, truly plan an event for Batten. And it was so, so exciting to like be a part of that process and kind of be behind the scenes and get to do that. Like, no, I was like on track to be a different major, and like I wouldn't have gotten to do kind of the like actual planning of an event for like my peers in that sense. So it was really, really exciting, and I'm only more excited to continue.
Yeah, Matt hit on a lot of just the amazing parts of Batten. I completely agree with the cohort idea. I have a feeling that Matt has most likely experienced late nights in Garrett before, but there's just nothing really hits like midnight, 12:30 late nights in Garrett, finishing a memo or a project or something that you probably could have done earlier, but it was just more fun to wait. And now everyone in the same class is sitting in Batten having the exact same problems, and we're working through it together. And similarly, like I was not really interested in mental health policy or health policy in general before taking this class with Paul. And one of my group mates was actually interested in health policy. We were interested in criminal justice policy. And we were like, okay, well, let's see if there's an overlap there. And there's a serious overlap between mental health policy and prisons. And now I feel like so much more knowledgeable on the subject. It's something that I'm really passionate and really interested in now. And it's kind of changed a little bit my career path and my career focus, which has been really interesting to kind of see that while I came in with this one mindset and this one mentality, and my time through Batten has really changed everything that I really thought was like what I wanted to do. And that came a lot from not only interacting with the students, but interacting with our professors. And I feel like so few people, so few students at UVA can say that they personally know their dean and that they can sit down and have a conversation with him or just go up to his office and sit down and talk to him whenever they want to. And that's something that's really unique to us as Batten students, because Dean Solomon, who is our new dean, has made it very apparent that he wants to meet every single student. He wants to know all of our faces, all of our names, all of our stories. He wants to find a way to help us in whatever way he can. And even if that's just being a support system or just being someone to talk to, he just wants to engage with us in any possible capacity. And that's something that's been absolutely amazing for me to see someone who's had so many amazing life experiences, being able to come back and be so vulnerable with us and be so honest with us, and genuinely want to get to know who we are. That's been easily one of the most amazing things that I've experienced, at least.
All right, well, let us pause and reflect. We have a few minutes left. 3 years ago, you were in the same boat that these students listening today are in. What piece of advice would you give yourself if you were trying to decide a college or university or majors or anything like that? What piece of advice would you give 17 or 18-year-old Matt and Sela?
Oh my gosh. Okay, I can think of one.
Especially in the selection process, I actually, crazy factoid that I didn't really put together until just now. I officially put down my deposit and decided on UVA exactly 3 years ago today, like April 20th, which is crazy town. I got the Snapchat memory today.
I promise you I did not stage that question knowing that this was exactly
I didn't even
3 years
put it
ago
together
today.
until I was sitting here and I was like, oh my God, that's literally today. For me, what it came down to was like really just sitting down and thinking about what I valued, and like what my like weird messed up high school senior values are. The weird thing about college and about everything you do once you're in college is it's like this mentality of like you grow where you're planted, right? Like everybody kind of finds a way to grow in the situation that they find themselves in, and like through utilizing your resources and growing as an individual, and you find your place or like work towards finding your place. And I think for me, my decision to come to UVA ended up being kind of arbitrary. I really like sat down and was like, the history bit's cool. I want to go far away, but not like too far away. And I just like, I had a good time on my tour. It didn't like rock my world, but I didn't have a bad time. So I was like, wow, let's do it. And I think sometimes like the arbitrary nature of it, we like get caught up in finding some perfect reason to decide where we want to go to school. And that's just like not the case always, which I know like isn't actionable advice. But I think sit down and like as best you can. I was like, hey, I do feel good about history, like school. And that like was a huge tick in UVA's box, right? So as best you can, but also don't sweat it. You've like done the hard stuff, right? Wherever you go, you're going to do excellent things. Like so long as you're driven by integrity and passion for the stuff that you're going to do, and you're like keeping it honest and keeping it real, I'm confident you guys all, if you got into UVA, you're going to do excellent anywhere. So best of luck. I'm going to drop I don't want to, I'm going to throw it to Sela, but I'm going to drop my email in the chat box. So hopefully you all can see it. If you want to hit me with an email, I'm doing nothing. So feel free to email away. You don't have to be formal or anything. If you have questions, anything like that, rock my world.
Yeah, so Matt gave a little bit of the technical, like college decision-making side advice, and I was thinking more so about just advice that I would give to my 18-year-old self, just in general. And it's become a lot more apparent now, and that's just, we need to live in the now. And this pandemic really showed that to me, because we left our second semester of our third year, and the next time we might be on grounds, it's like, that's it. Like that's really our last year there. And that really put things into perspective for me, because I know in high school, my senior year, the only thing I cared about was like, okay, I'm going to college. I'm going to be on my own. I'm going to be independent. I'm done. I'm leaving. Like, I'm out. And now being back home, it's become a lot more apparent to me that I really want to take advantage of all the time that I have left at UVA, and just with the people that I really care about, and with my family, because there's three of us. There's me, my younger sister, who is a first year at UVA, my older brother, who graduated from UVA in 2017, and then my dad also went to UVA. So this was kind of not really a choice for me. It was just like, you got into UVA, you're going to UVA. But my brother's now moved out of the house. He's in California. I'm the next one, then I'm out, and then it's my sister, and then she's out. And it's just kind of crazy that time's flying by so quickly. It feels like just yesterday, like Matt said, like just yesterday, we were putting our deposits down. We were moving into dorms. We were just living our best lives. We were excited. We were innocent first years. And now we're just about to graduate. And one of the best things that someone's told me is just that you just need to take advantage of every minute that we have left with each other. And COVID has really put that in perspective. So I know that, similarly to what Matt said, obviously if you got into UVA, you all are amazing students. And regardless of what institution you choose, they're going to be lucky to have you and lucky to have the skills that you can bring. So I really wish you all luck in the decisions that you make. And I'll put my email address down there if you guys just want to reach out. Just similarly to Matt, I'm literally not doing anything except for homework and sleeping. So please feel free to reach out to me with anything, even if it's just like asking me how my day is. Like, I would love that.
8 hours a day on Zoom isn't sitting well with you anymore.
Nope.
Well, I think that's a really wonderful note to leave it on. It's hopeful, it's optimistic, it's encouraging you that whatever path you may find yourself on, we wish the best for you. So thanks to Sela, thanks to Matt, thanks to Courtney, and thanks to all of you for joining us. You will be able to access this session within a couple days, and also you can see upcoming webinars and other session archival footage from other sessions at the virtual UVA page. You can also, of course, follow all of UVA socials, also Batten's. We're at UVA Batten across lots of platforms. So thank you so much for joining us. And I truly hope we have a chance to connect in person in the fall or beyond. But for now, thanks again, and talk to you all later.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks all.
Bye, everyone.